Today, Class 10, once again, open your history books to page 67. We move on to 3.3. The subtopic is the limits of the civil disobedience movement. All social groups were not influenced by the concept of Swaraj. Like the untouchables. They began to call themselves Dalits or the oppressed class. These Dalits were also ignored by the Congress. Earlier we had read about the poor peasants being ignored because of the rich landlords, that even the workers, they were also ignored by the Congress due to the industrialists. Now this is the third group that was ignored by the Congress. Why were the Dalits ignored? They were ignored for fear of offending the orthodox high caste Hindus. Gandhiji said that Swaraj was impossible if untouchability was not eliminated. He called them Harijans, or the children of God. He organized Satyagraha to secure their entry into temples. Even access, giving them access to wells, tanks, roads, and schools. He persuaded the upper class to change their hearts and give up the practice of untouchability. However, the Dalits were keen on a different political solution to the problem of their community. They demanded reserved seats in educational institutions and a separate electorate that would choose Dalit members for legislative councils. Therefore, Dalit participation in the movement was limited. Why? Because the Congress ignored their demands. In 1930, Dr. Ambedkar organized the Dalits into the Depressed Classes Association. He clashed with Gandhiji at the second Roundtable Conference, where he demanded a separate electorate for the Dalits. The British at once conceded to his demand. But Gandhiji began a fast unto death. For he believed that this would slow down the process of their integration into society. Dr. Ambedkar accepted Gandhiji's proposal, and the result was the Pune Pact of September 1932. By this pact, it gave the depressed classes reserved seats in provincial and central legislative councils. They were to be voted in by the general electorate. Gone to the fourth part. Some of the Muslim political organizations in India were also not very active during the movement. After the non-cooperation movement was called off, a large section of Muslims felt alienated and therefore moved away from the Congress. The relations between the Hindus and Muslims worsened. Each community organized religious processions trying to provoke Hindu-Muslim communal clashes and riots in various cities. The Congress and Muslim League made efforts to renegotiate an alliance. It appeared that such a unity could be made, but differences over the representation in future assemblies that were elected broke down this unity. Muhammad Ali Jinnah of the Muslim League was willing to give up the demand for separate electorates only if Muslims were assured reserved seats in the Central Assembly. This was more of a compromise than willingness. At the All Parties Conference in 1928, the hope of resolving the issue disappeared when M.R. Jayakar of the Hindu Mahasabha strongly opposed efforts at compromise. When the civil disobedience movement began, there was an atmosphere of suspicion and distress between the Hindus and the Muslims. Large sections of Muslims did not respond to the call of a united struggle. Many Muslim leaders featured that culture and identity of minorities would be overshadowed under the domination of a Hindu majority. We go to page 70. The sense of collective belonging. Nationalism spread when people began to believe that they are all part of the same nation, when they discover some unity that binds them together. You have read earlier how the French revolutionaries took measures to spread a sense of belonging and a common identity. Now in India, this sense of collective belonging came partly through the experience of united struggles. There were other cultural processes like history and fiction, folk tales and songs, popular prints and symbols. These captured the people's imagination and played a part in the making of nationalism. The identity of the nation, we have seen, is most often symbolized in a figure or image. To be more precise, a female figure. You take France, they have a female figure called Marion. You take Germany, they have a female figure representing the nation called Germania. You have the US, where they have the Statue of Liberty. It's a female. So here also in India, we also wanted to have a figure that would represent the nation. The identity of India came to be associated with the image of Bharat Mata. The image was first created by, now pay attention, boys and girls, the image was first created by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, who also wrote Vande Mataram, a hymn to the motherland. And today it is sung all over the country. The first to paint his famous image of Bharat Mata was Abhanindranath Tagore. He portrays her as an ascetic figure. She is calm, composed, divine, and spiritual. Before I proceed, boys and girls, let us go back to this paragraph. There are two things which you have to take into account. It says, the first to create the image of Bharat Mata was Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. The first to paint his image of Bharat Mata and portray her as an ascetic was Abhanindranath Tagore. Do not get confused, so be careful. Ideas of nationalism developed through movement to revive Indian folklores. Folk tales or folk songs that were sung by bards had to be preserved. From where would you get these folk tales and folklores or folk songs? They went to the villages to gather folk songs and legends. These stories gave a true picture of traditional culture that had been corrupted and destroyed by outside forces. Therefore, it was important to preserve this folk tradition in order to discover one's tradition and identity. In Madras, Natesar Sastri believed that folklore was national literature. As the national movement developed, leaders became aware of such icons and symbols in unifying people. Gandhiji's tricolor flag with a spinning wheel represented Gandhiji's idea of self-help. Carrying it aloft, remember when he went on the Salt March, he carried the tricolor flag. And it says that this tricolor flag became a symbol of defiance. Another way to inspire people and spread nationalism was through history. Indians were thought to be backward and primitive. by the British. Therefore, Indians began looking into the past to discover India's great achievements. You take ancient history, you have the Mauryan Empire, you have the Gupta Empire, right? These were all flourishing dynasties, became very famous. So the British thought that we Indians were backward and primitive, and the best thing was they thought that we would not be able to manage the administration of our country. But how wrong they were. In ancient times, art and architecture, science and mathematics, religion and culture, law and philosophy, and crafts had flourished. However, the efforts to unite people had many problems, because many people have different problems, different opinions, different ways in looking at certain terms, as already we have seen about Swaraj. Therefore, as it said earlier, the unity of people did not come through peaceful movements. It came through force, violence, where they realized that unity of the nation is important. First, the past being glorified. First, the past being glorified was Hindu. Images were drawn from Hindu iconography. So people of other communities felt left out. There were ups and downs during the movement, but India was emerging as a nation with many voices, yearning and wanting freedom from British rule. Students, go through the videos 3 to 4 times. Again, I am instructing you, please do not watch all videos at once, or a particular video 3 to 4 times continuously. You will do so because Sir has said it. But students, Sir is also saying this. Do not watch any of these videos continuously 3 to 4 times. There should be an interval of at least an hour or 2. Your eyes are going to get spoiled. You are old enough, big enough to understand the importance of your eyesight. Take care. No need to worry. This is the last video, right, of the chapter, and in fact, the last chapter for me. Other videos will be coming up later in June. That is chapter 4 in history and chapter 4 in political science. So you have plenty of time, no need to get too worried. Now, see the figure 4.A. It represents Bharat Mata on page 72. Now, you must distinguish, as I have specified earlier, you must distinguish between who created it first and who was the first to paint his image of Bharat Mata, representing her as or portraying her as an ascetic. Get that very clear. I have stressed that in this video too. Then, read about the Cripps mission and the Quit India movement, where the call was to quit India as fast as possible and give we Indians independence. Another reminder again. In my first video, I had mentioned certain dates and events. Students, please make a note of these dates and events. There are 6 to 8 of them. You have to mark them in your book and read it and remember, because they are going to be used for map work. You open any sample paper and you will find at least 2 or 3 of these events are so common. Out of 10 sample papers, you will find at least 2 of these events and dates which are very, very common. Therefore, there are only 6 to 7 of them or 9 of them. Just note them and do your map work. My next video will be on the map work of chapter 3. Usually it comes from chapter 3, no other chapter. India. On the Indian map, political map of India, you will have to mark this, right? One more thing is, and the last advice is, be careful of your work. Do it well. Complete all the question answers. Right up to the end of May, you are supposed to finish 2 chapters in history, 2 chapters in civics. Now, I've also finished videos on the 2 chapters in history and also videos on 2 chapters in political science. So now your course is over till May. Later on in June or towards the end of June, I will make videos on the 4th chapter in history and the 4th chapter in political science. By that time, towards the end of June or the first week of July, you finish 1 chapter in history, the last chapter in history and the last chapter in political science. So, a lot of time, no need to take tension, sit late into the night and do your work. Sorry, I do not agree to that. So please listen to my instructions. They will help you. Stay home and stay safe. Hope to see you soon at school.